Hi, welcome back. I'm Susan Guttridge, and I'm so glad you're here. In this video, I'm going to be talking about something that can feel incredibly tricky when you're living with depression, and that is self-compassion. So you've probably heard the term when it comes to starting to spark up self-compassion to treat yourself as you would treat somebody that you love. And while that phrase works for some people and can sound lovely, for others, especially those who've experienced hurt or betrayal or conditional love, those words can feel hollow. They can feel impossible and they can even make you feel a little unsafe. So, if that is you, I want you to know that there is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken for feeling that way. In fact, you're adapting. When we've experienced a hurt, betrayal, neglect, or love that came with strings attached, our nervous system learns to protect us by pulling away from vulnerability, and that includes with ourselves. So, that same protective adaptation that once kept you safe can now make warmth toward yourself feel unsafe too. If you've been feeling frustrated or a little ashamed because self compassion doesn't come easily for you, especially when you're struggling with depression, then you are definitely not alone. In this video, I'll share some reasons why self compassion can feel so hard. If you aren't sure why we counselors keep talking about self compassion, let me start there. So, cultivating self compassion is so important because it can help reduce depression symptoms by softening that harsh inner critic, so softening self criticism, calming the nervous system, and creating a gentler space for healing to take place. In addition to offering you some reasons why self compassion doesn't come easily, I'll also offer some practical strategies to help you start sparking it up. Because taking even small actions to reduce symptoms can be so empowering, and we all deserve that feeling, especially when we're under the weight of a low mood. That said, sometimes deeper work with a counselor is needed to address the roots that are beneath depression, especially in those cases where past hurts or trauma make compassion feel unsafe. I believe in sharing many ideas because there is no one size fits all here. So I invite you to listen with an open heart, an open mind, and try what resonates for you and leave the rest behind. If you already have a strategy or a practice that helps you connect with kindness towards yourself, consider sharing it in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what somebody else needs to hear today. All right, let's start with reason number one. When love didn't feel safe growing up. If love or care in your past was tied to hurt, rejection, or unpredictability, your nervous system may have learned to associate kindness with danger. When the people who were supposed to protect you caused harm, instead, self compassion can trigger those old alarm bells as if being loving or caring towards yourself might make you vulnerable again. That's why it can help to approach self compassion gently, kind of like you're introducing your system to something unfamiliar. You're not trying to force warmth, you're just creating safe moments where kindness can quietly exist without feeling threatening. So you could think of someone, it could be a person that you actually know, or it could be a fictional character. Think of someone whose presence makes you feel steady, safe, warm, supported. Imagine what would they say to you right now? Or how would they respond to you if you were struggling? And then let their voice be a stand in for your own until self compassion feels more familiar. Reason two, love was conditional. If you learned that care had to be earned, that you were only valued when you were good enough or useful enough, it's no wonder self kindness feels undeserved. Depression often magnifies this, telling us that we're not worthy of care unless we meet some certain standard. You might find it helpful to start where you already have a well-worn pathway of care. So, with someone or something that you naturally look after without any kind of condition. So, you could try caring for yourself the way that you would care for somebody that you're responsible for, like a pet or a plant, or if you're a parent, then a child. If they were scared or tired or hurting, you would offer them nourishment or rest or some gentleness without asking them to earn it. So start offering that same level of care to yourself, even in the tiniest of ways. Reason 3, vulnerability feels dangerous. For some, showing a need or softness was met with ridicule, punishment, or even abandonment. If that's the case, self compassion, which asks us to be emotionally open with ourselves, can feel risky. If opening up feels unsafe, would you be interested in beginning by simply making your body feel anchored and supported, which can lay the groundwork so that compassion has a place to land? So start with body based grounding before introducing a kind thought. Place your hand on your heart. Notice the warmth beneath your hand. Turn your attention towards your breath. Notice the air at your nostrils as you inhale in, and the warmth of air on your lips as you exhale out. You could even notice the rise and fall of your chest as you follow your breath. You could connect with your feet flat on the floor or your sit bones on the surface beneath you, holding you, supporting you. By grounding yourself first, you're signaling to your body that it's safe enough to stay present before layering in some gentle words or kindness to self. Reason 4, you were never shown how. If no one ever modeled what self-kindness can look like, it's easy to assume that you can't do it, that you're bad at it, or that it's just not who you are. But self-compassion isn't something that you have or you don't have. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned, practiced, and strengthened over time. That said, when you're living with depression, these kinds of statements can feel painfully foreign. Depression speaks its own language, one made up of dark, self critical, and hopeless thoughts. It says things like, "You're not good enough. Why even try? This is pointless." So, when you first try to speak the language of self compassion, it can feel really awkward. It can feel forced or even fake, like you're reciting lines from a script that was written for a completely different character. That does not mean that you're doing it wrong, and it certainly doesn't mean that it was written for somebody else. It means you're practicing a dialect your brain hasn't heard much before, and it's going to take some time to get used to. And because depression narrows your emotional bandwidth, neutral or mildly kind words might feel more believable than overly warm ones. You don't have to jump in with some statement like, "I love myself," if that feels completely out of reach today. But you could start with grounded, believable statements like, "This is hard and I'm doing the best I can. It's okay to take a break. I don't have to figure out everything today. I'm allowed to rest. This is a difficult moment." Pick one short, steady phrase and repeat it daily. Maybe try when you first wake up or when you notice that inner critic is getting really loud. Over time, your brain will start to recognize these words as part of its own vocabulary. Think of it like learning a new language. You begin with some simple functional phrases, and with practice, your fluency grows. And with that fluency, your ability to meet yourself with compassion deepens. Reason 5, self criticism feels safer. Sometimes being hard on yourself feels like protection, a way to keep from making mistakes or drawing negative attention. But constant self criticism is exhausting and it actually fuels depression cycle. The goal isn't to erase your protective instinct, it's to keep the protection while softening the delivery so it supports you rather than harms you. If that resonates with you, something that you can try is to experiment with protective rephrasing. Keep the intention to protect yourself, but change the tone. So, for example, instead of "I'm so lazy," try "I'm resting right now so I can recover my energy." Or something else along those lines that sounds right to you, but that keeps the protective goal while removing the harm. Reason 6. Depression numbs everything. Depression can flatten your emotional range so much that kindness doesn't land. You might feel blank, disconnected, or like nothing matters. And that can also make self compassion feel like it doesn't matter, like it's pointless. When numbness is present, the aim isn't to suddenly surge in a rush of warmth, but rather it's to plant some very small seeds of care and then let them exist. Let them start to grow, even without strong emotion. Would you consider lowering the bar for what counts? Self compassion can be as small as noticing when you're feeling thirsty and responding by getting yourself a glass of water and drinking it, or opening a window to get some fresh air because you've been inside for a really long period of time, or even acknowledging, "I showed up for this video with Susan today." These small acts matter. Each one is a step towards reconnecting with yourself and sparking up some kindness. All right, you might try one of these practices and feel nothing. That is okay. Research shows that the brain's emotional circuits can reawaken slowly with repetition, even before you consciously notice the shift. Every time you return to these small acts, you're helping rewire your brain toward connection and warmth with yourself. So if self compassion feels awkward, distant, scary right now, it's not failure, it is your starting point. You are here, which means you are already beginning, and that is more than enough. All right, that's it for this video. I have a handout for you. You can access it with the link that will be in the description below this video. Drop me a line in the comments if something stood out for you today. I would love to hear about it, and thank you so much for being here today.